For this video, I turned my focus from what games to play on Xbox Series X and instead take a look at the best features of the system, but some of these are also available on the Series S and last gen systems as well. Features that are just a part of the Xbox ecosystem and that any owner can take advantage of. This list takes into account all parts of the hardware and software, from the controller through to tips and tricks to get the most out of your Xbox and getting the most value for the money you've spent. But please, if you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it around, and leave a comment, as it greatly helps the video and channel get pushed out to more and more people. But now, let's check out what we can do with the Xbox Series X and other Xbox consoles. Let's go. At number 10, I'm going to start with the Xbox app, which you can get on both Android and iOS devices. And personally, this still needs some work as it's missing some features that the older app had and just isn't as user-friendly in certain ways. But let's focus on the best things you can do with it, starting with being able to see friends which are online and being able to chat with them, see which games are popular with friends, recommendations from Game Pass, but perhaps the best feature is being able to remotely install games from the app onto your console. So no matter where you are, you can do this, and it's especially convenient for those on slower internet connections and when they're away from their console. We used to be able to buy games from the app, but this feature was removed. But being able to install games remotely is great, and I'm hoping store refunds also make their way to this. But another fantastic feature leads me on to the next feature on the list. But firstly, of course, if you're sending messages back and forth with someone, don't do it from the console itself. That'll take forever. Use your phone and the app. Much better and quicker. So at number 9 is that of streaming games from your console, and that of xCloud. Now, xCloud isn't available in Australia just yet, and so I haven't had the chance to go hands-on with the service. But by all accounts, Microsoft is onto a winner with the service, delivering a cloud streaming platform that is a good accompaniment to gaming on a console itself. And for those who are unfamiliar with xCloud or cloud streaming, it means that on a compatible device such as an Android phone, you can play games without having to install them on your local device. You're streaming them remotely from in the cloud. So that also means you will need a good internet connection, and that is best suited to some games over others, such as online shooters, which do require the best connections. But the app also allows players to stream games from their own Xbox consoles to their Android or iOS devices, either locally or remotely. So you can stream a game from your console and play it on your phone whilst you're outside or in another room, for example. And this can also be used remotely, just like xCloud, except you're streaming it from your own personal console. But you'll also need that great internet connection as well, taking your games to many more places. And some of the footage you're seeing here was captured from iOS as well. And for number 8, continuing with the theme of games we can play locally or remotely, we have game sharing. And this is probably one of the least known about features if you're new to the console or gaming in general, or have tended to buy all of your games physically. Game sharing is just that, being able to share your digital purchases with another user or console. So for example, I've always had 2 of each Xbox consoles in my house. So when I purchase a game digitally, I can play it on both systems. I don't need to buy it twice. Now, of course, if you buy the disc version, you can use it on both consoles as well, but you can't use it at the same time, obviously. With game sharing, you can. One copy on both consoles. This can also be done with friends or family, no matter where you are in the world, so you can choose to game share with someone you trust, and you both get access to each other's games library. Such an awesome thing to do. Now, to be able to use this feature, one console gets designated as the home Xbox. This becomes the main system, so no matter what profile is signed in on the console, all of the games are available for that person. The games are tied to your account and the console itself. So you can take your account and use it on any Xbox console, sign into it, and all the games you've purchased will be there for you. Now, put simply, whichever console or person you want to game share with, you designate their console as your home Xbox and vice versa. Just remember that to play any of your games that aren't on your home Xbox, you will need to be online and sign into your profile so the game knows what you have access to. Then at number 7, we have the fantastic Xbox controller itself, and that goes for the standard one and the elite versions, which whilst being expensive are even more excellent versions of an already awesome controller. I've always felt Xbox have had the best console controllers of any system, ever really since the Duke on the original Xbox, which was good, but with the controller S follow-up, Microsoft would continue to refine their design and improve on it with each generation, and the Xbox Series X has the best controller out there, and that's even with the improvement of the PS5 controller, which is miles better than what the older DualShocks had. But like other things about the console, the Series X has made the controller even better, but Microsoft has updated its firmware so the controller is even more responsive when playing games, further decreasing the amount of latency present, which is a very good thing. Unfortunately, the Elite Controller 2 hasn't received this update yet, but the Xbox controls can also be assigned its own profile. So if you have several people in the household with multiple controllers, you can just pick up yours to turn the console on and it will automatically sign you in on your profile. And gamers can also customize the button layout of the controller should they wish to as well, giving even more options for how you navigate everything and game. For number 6, it's all about the Xbox Store on the console and what you can do with it and the information that it provides you. So going into it, it will no doubt show you any large sales that are going on at the time, and when checking out these games it will tell you the original price and the discount it has, plus the amount of days left for the sale. But perhaps you made a wrong purchase or want a refund. Now you can't do this from the console itself, but log into your account on the Microsoft Store, go to order history and request one. And in my experience, this has always been quick and painless as it should be. This can also tie back in with the Xbox app, as gamers are able to pre-install games they haven't even purchased yet, which is great for those on slower connections, but the store will also make you aware of if a game is on Game Pass as well before you pull the trigger to buy it. But one option I'd like to see on the store would be the option to tag games you're interested in and then be notified of when it goes on sale. That would be great. And for number 5, it's the game library, the section that lists all of your installed games, all of those that you already own but aren't installed, plus everything that the likes of Game Pass or EA Play have to offer. But the library goes deeper than this, with filters to help you find what you're looking for, and for those with hundreds and hundreds of games, more games than they can actually fit on all their storage, such as myself, this is constantly being used. And now that the backwards compatible library is really quite sizable and hopefully getting even more added to it in the future, then this is really needed. So we can sort games by console, showing only those on the original Xbox, Xbox 360 or Xbox One for example, only showing Xbox Series X and S enhanced games, plus being able to search these per storage device, then being able to copy or move the games or apps between those storage devices, including the internal. Delving deeper into this section on a per game basis can also show us such things as the newly added compatibility features, which is still very early on and only a handful of games have these features at the moment, with the frames per second boost, which can be toggled on or off, as can the auto HDR feature, which can vary in quality between games, but the user gets the freedom to decide whether they want it on or not. At number 4 is the options in the user interface to change your settings in terms of your TV, sound and customizing the UI. And this is especially a big deal these days when we take into account the differences between all of the TVs out there and what they offer. First up is if you have a 4K 120Hz capable TV and an HDMI 2.1 cable, you'll be able to run the games with all the bells and whistles, choosing 4K resolutions and 60 frames a second, or accepting a more dynamic or lower resolution whilst playing with the highest possible frame rates. But Xbox will also natively support several resolutions, such as 1080p, 1440p and 4K. And it's that 1440p option which the PS5 lacks, and which is hugely important for those who have their Xbox Series X or S hooked up to a PC monitor. Now there are differences between TVs and monitors, with some getting high frame rates such as 120 frames a second only being made available whilst on HDMI 2.1, and this really differs a lot between the different monitors and TV manufacturers, and where I suggest if you can hold off, then do so if you're wanting to buy a high-end new TV and monitor, as a lot will become standard over the next year or two and for much cheaper. But make sure to go into the settings on the Series X or S and check out what your TV is capable of, as the consoles will tell you what your display is capable of. And of course check out the audio settings, as the likes of Dolby Atmos are also supported if you're after that. And at number 3 we have storage and transfers, and if there is anything you'll notice when using the Xbox Series X especially, or even installing 2 or 3 Call of Duty games, games with visuals this eye-melting take up space on your storage devices, and a lot of it. Now the Series X comes with a speedy 1TB SSD of internal storage, whilst the Series S comes with 500GB of internal storage on its SSD. But also remember that the vast majority of the Xbox Series X and S enhanced games must be installed to the internal SSD. So when you download games, it will install to the internal drive if there is space. If there isn't, then it will give you the option to delete some other games. But Xbox users can also simply plug in an external USB 3 drive to act as storage as well, and have the option to install every game you download to it. If you do download an enhanced game, it will also notify you that it needs faster storage and whether you want to install it to the internal instead. Personally, I have a 5TB external drive and move games between it and the internal, but you can also easily increase your SSD storage by another 1TB with the expansion card, which is expensive, but it also gives you the high performance required to run enhanced games off of it too. And just on a side note, for those who have multiple Xbox consoles in the same household, you can also transfer games over your local network between the consoles, great for those with data caps. Coming in at number 2 is the standby mode, or the likes of cold reboots of the Series X and S, and when we compare these to the excellent and powerful 1X of the last generation, you'll wonder how you waited so long for things to happen when you simply turned on the console. What used to seem like forever is now nothing more than a mild inconvenience, as the new consoles boot up to the UI in a fraction of the time that the Xbox One or One S did, and even the One X. But leaving the console in standby and heading to settings to enable the feature will allow your Xbox console to download updates to its operating system and game updates when they become available without you needing to do anything. This becomes so damn good and only takes once or twice when you sit down to play a game, only to be notified that the game requires a large update. And once again, if you're on a slower connection, this can literally take hours and all night in order to update, as the game sizes can be much larger than any previous generation. And with how fast the Series X and S boots up when turned off completely, it makes either option viable. Cold booting the console can also make the system just run better overall, just without the convenience of instant on. And games and the system updating automatically, which I mentioned. This is a great feature, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's perfect though. And at number 1, this isn't about a single thing in particular, but a bunch of things together, which makes this generation much different to last gen. And it's the fact that you can bring so many of your games forward with you, plus things such as controllers which worked on the Xbox One. These can be used on the Series X and S. So if you prefer that controller, for example, then sync it and off you go. But Microsoft also decided years ago to begin work on their backwards compatibility program, letting gamers play older games on newer hardware, often with enhancements, but at no extra cost, whether you have the game digitally or physically. If you haven't played any of these, all you need to do is install the game from the store or pop the disc in and it will download it for you. But the game will also sync any save files that you may have if you've played the game on a previous system, so you can simply keep playing from where you left off, whether you played the game yesterday, last week, or 15 years ago, for example. That's because all of your save games on Xbox automatically get synced to the cloud, so they're always backed up and moving between consoles is very easy. And I'll expand on this feature in a future video, plus other benefits that come with it as well. So there's a bunch of tips for you to take a look at on the Xbox Series X and S, plus older Xbox consoles as well. Things that you may not have been aware of, but they all come together to improve the experience when gaming on Xbox. Is there anything that you didn't know about or only discovered recently, but now you use the feature a lot? Please let me know down below, hit the thumbs up, share the video and subscribe, as it all really helps the video and channel get noticed. Check the description for a link to the Discord to talk everything Xbox and gaming, and I'll see you on the next video.